national security analyst at the Heritage Foundation, is Robin Simcox. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be with you.
Robin, first of all, let's bring this up. These series of full screens that we have on some attacks that have happened, and this is really telling. This is in Paris back November 13th, 2015. You had two individuals became radicalized in a Molenbeek ghetto. 130 people ended up killed. Then in July 14th, 2016, the Tunisian national who drove a truck into a crowd, killing 84 people. And then in Berlin, December 2016, failed asylum seeker Anis Amri. He drove a truck through a crowded Christmas market. You'll remember that, killing 12 people. The video was horrifying at that one. So, Robin, what is the problem, and why are these individuals, these refugees, not assimilating into the cultures where they end up?
A few things, really. First of all, you have ISIS. Because there's such large refugee flows at the moment going into Europe, ISIS have very specifically targeted those refugee flows to infiltrate, to get their pre-existing operatives into Europe so they can carry out some of the attacks that you've mentioned there. But then I think you also have to say, because of the scale of the numbers coming into Europe, it's almost impossible for any of the receiving countries to begin to deal with this and to begin to deal with integration and assimilation issues in anything like a responsible way, because in Germany alone you've had almost 2 million people come into the country in 2 years. I think any country in the world would struggle with that amount of flow. But when you have some of these European countries which are very uncertain about identity issues, have a sense of guilt about colonial past, perceived or otherwise, then that just makes it even more difficult.
So since you're saying you have the out-of-control numbers, no way to control it, what would your answer be? To close off the borders until there is a way to figure that out?
Not close off the borders entirely, but I think you don't have to be an open borders advocate to say that the numbers coming into Europe I mean, they're crazy, to be honest. And this has been something that's been discussed in the UK for years, where you've had poll after poll of people saying they want immigration cut very, very significantly, and yet politicians essentially being unwilling or unable to act on that. And I think that's how you see a big divide opening up between the political class and those people that they're governing.
So what about when it comes down to those Muslims who believe in Sharia law? I was reading an article, I think it was in the National Review, it said upwards of 2/3 of Muslims in the countries from which we accept refugees here in the United States believe in Sharia law, and Sharia law runs exactly opposite of our beliefs here in America.
Well, this is where you have to say, and the refugee situation, I think, is an especially pertinent one. If Europe is accepting in people in such large numbers from people fleeing from Syria or parts of East Africa, the Middle East, wherever it may be, there has to be, part of the social contract there is that there has to be integration into the core values of the country which you are arriving. And obviously the core values of the country which you are arriving in Europe, and in the US of course as well, do not revolve around Sharia law. They revolve around the rule of law, modernity, democracy, human rights, and a sense of identity that doesn't involve being dictated by religion. Yeah,
the belief that people have a right to govern themselves, amongst other things. Robin, thank you so much for joining us. Very difficult topic to tackle in a short amount of time. Thank you.